Hi, I'm Thomas the Hermit,
And I'm Chris Poulos.
and this is Utopiana.
Sin. If there is no sin, there is no judge. And if there is no judgment, then evil is good, and good is evil.
There's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No religion to guard the hearts of man. Everyone's struggling in the selfish tide. Imagine all the people trusting in the Antichrist. Oh, you may say I have illusions, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us to
Okay, so this is our topic for Utopiana today. We're talking about the rising black conservatives. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to play a video from these rising black conservatives called the MAGA Boys.
I'm a mega boy, stomping in the mega hat. Try and take my gun, believe me, I'ma take it back. I know some blacks for Trump, you could call him mega black. Culture vulture on the mega track, I'ma pay him back. Ay, you don't want the beef, we ain't the coward type. We ain't no Antifa, we know how to fight. I'm a nitty gritty alpha, you a flower type. I'm about that action, you a fraction, you about the hype. Ay, and I'ma serve the boss. My one and only job is to point you to the cross. You could bend a knee, now I make it then. I made a vow, he in the clouds with the power in his hands. And we don't need the luck, forget about Pelosi, Brody, we don't need the truck. I'ma keep it a buck, hop up on the train and get left. I campaign, stay in your lane, I'ma bring it to my death, man. Calvin.
what I do.
Okay, listen, bro. I need you to talk to the people, but bro, you gotta go easy on them because you know how the snowflakes get, and we don't want to offend you.
Bet. Drip who drip, I just seen it's a trip scene. Illegals hopping over borders, that's a crime scene. Hold tight, we on the coast, it's the Trump train. Americans with the knowledge, all facts, man. Blow steam out they top, she a lumberjack. Oops, I'm in church, so let me double back. Check the charts, hold them up, I wanna see the stats. Trump got a lot of voters and they looking
Yeah,
back. Internet in your pocket, you can search the facts. But you a leotard, you never heard of that. Logic is a virus, you took the vaccine. Got you limping, walking slow, Maxine. You just a soy boy, oh you oppressed now? See, I'm a patriot.
he's got a great beat and he's got great lyrics, man. And the black community is doing so much with these guys.
Bryson, I should have known you were gonna wear that hat. Rockin' MAGA, but you black.
And they saying to that MAGA boy, in this world you got two choices, build or destroy. They got a plan, plus they take our mans and they fill them with soy. They indoctrinating all of our kids, they sit back and enjoy. They got a mission, they enjoy the division. Who's losing, whoever's winning.
When I hear rap producing something good like this, and I just feel very, very encouraged. This is Bryson Gray. He has a big, giant MAGA hat. It's a very wonderful black expression that we're seeing. Now we have about 7 more people that we're going to highlight this evening, Chris. And
Yes, we have, yeah,
go
we have
ahead.
Brandon, right? Coming. Yeah, Brandon. We have,
Tatum,
Care what nobody say.
yep, Diamond and Silk.
with Diamond and Silk. We have
Come on, man.
Candace Owens
Candace
coming up.
Owens.
You know,
So they've really been, I mean, I've heard some polls, Thomas, and they've been doing so much damage to the Democrat narrative that essentially like this. There's never been as many black conservatives, and Trump has been giving them all the ammunition. They already had a lot of good points, but when you bring in the unemployment numbers and the fact that all of Trump's actions have been pro-black, every single one of them. I mean, we'll go into more detail soon, and I'm sure some of these videos will as well. But I mean, it's so weird to have people try to hate Trump when he's bending over backwards to prove that he's not a racist. Because Trump knows that people are going to pretend like he was racist, even though his legacy before being president wasn't racist either, and that's a whole nother bag of candy.
Yeah, I was really excited about the lyrics. If you have a chance to check out and listen to the MAGA Boys Up Close, the song I just played, one of the cool lyrics that he says in there is that he's the first black president.
That's right.
And he says a lot of really, really cool words. I'm not a fan of rap, but in a way, rap has brought poetry back.
Yeah.
The use of words in a poetry type style. And when rap started, doing the rap of the streets and glorifying the streets and drugs and violence and prostitution and things like that, I really felt something really bad happen. But I'm really glad to see that they're doing this thing. And not only that, Bryson Gray, whoever wins the contest, and Bryson Gray for the rap contest is actually going to be able to meet with President Trump. So there's a whole really cool thing going on with that.
Very nice.
Chris?
Yeah. And I would also say, Thomas, that this, the rap music, that we've been used to has been very, it's foul, but it's like you have these rappers, right? And they get interviewed, for example, and you realize that these rappers are like hand-picked people by these studios, and they actually live in mansions and gated communities. And now you have like this subculture of people that are amateur rappers emerging. Now they're living in the hood and they're seeing the truth, and their lyrics, they're either coming out as complete full-blown conservatives, or at the very least they are culturally unbiased and they're talking about the absolute devastation in the black community. And it's just really interesting to see how when you have people that actually are on the ground and see it for what it is, it lines up with what Candace is going to talk about, and Brandon and Anthony Logan and Diamond and Silk. And at a certain point, we've got to ask ourselves, what agenda is really for the black community? If we're really dirt honest about it, not looking at it through the lens of let's find some way to scapegoat some like very specific event. Let's look at the whole picture, not just one little thing. And once you do that and you actually take in significance and scope and the actual, what actually destroys the community, that you get the MAGA boys, because they have no other choice. I'm sure many of these people started out very, like Candace did, started out very biased against conservatives because that's what they were taught. But once you see the full-blown horrible truth of everything, you have to follow it. And that's what we're seeing. Excuse me.
Okay, and we're going to show a clip of, well, it's actually quite a long clip. Officer Tatum is a really cool online YouTuber. He has quite a big following, and we're going to promote Officer Tatum right now.
All black community, but I had a diverse upbringing because my parents, pay for us. I wasn't always a Republican voting, Trump supporting conservative as my dad. But I want to tell y'all how I changed and what made me live in the Democratic Party. Better neighborhoods, some of those better schools ended up being diverse. This video is brought to you by the Officer Tatum store. The Officer Tatum store. Get the merch link in the description section. Let's get into this right there in the middle of the hood. For those of you who watch me, who support me, I'm sure you know that I wasn't always a conservative. I wasn't always a registered Republican voting for President Trump, gun toting. I wasn't always like this. I used to be a Democrat. I voted for Barack Obama. I used to be somewhat of a liberal. And I know it's hard to believe, but I want to tell y'all the story of how I got to this point, because I speak around the country. I've been to 26 universities in 20-some states, and a lot of people ask me this question, like, were you all?
Okay, I've got that messed up a little bit. Obviously,
It's okay now.
I stuck two versions on there. It was okay, but what was going on is I don't have the voices synced up.
Obviously in the all-black community, but I had a diverse upbringing because my parents, paid for us to go to private schools. Sometimes we stayed in better neighborhoods as my dad got a job and my mom and then we progressed. We stayed in better neighborhoods and we went to better schools. And some of those better schools ended up being diverse. Now, we graduated, me and my brother, we graduated from Paul Laurence Dunbar High School, which is right there in the middle of the hood. It's an all-black school, and it had its goods and bads, right? I mean, we had 9 D1 players on one football team. 4 of us were All-Americans playing for one team. But there's other things at the school that wasn't quite that good, right? People shooting dice in the bathroom, gang banging, people coming off the street in the school fighting. So I've had a large range of experiences as a youngster. I got arrested when I was 8 years old for smoking marijuana in a vacant house. I got jumped in a gang by my cousins when we were probably 9, 10 years old. And so I've had a lot of experiences. But leading myself down the path that God had for me is what really changed me from being a liberal Democrat to a conservative. So I went to college. I was an All-American football player. I went to the University of Arizona because I could have went anywhere in the country. I was top 78 player in the nation. I was the top safety in the nation coming out of high school, but I decided Arizona. Things didn't work out for me at Arizona. God had another plan for me. I got saved in 2008, which had a tremendous effect on my life. I mean, y'all, I used to have gold teeth. I used to walk around my pants sagging. I had a terrible attitude, but God changed me. Still liberal. I still believe that Democrat was for the black people and Republicans were racist white people. Then I became a police officer after the 2010 NFL draft. I was in the NFL draft. It didn't go the way I wanted to go, and I had to make other decisions. At the same time, my son was born. He was just a little baby, so I had to make a grown man decision, and I decided to apply for the police department, not even wanting to be a cop. Never even thought about being a cop, and I just needed a job that was going to pay me benefits so I could support my child. And I ended up getting a call back. I did a ride along and it blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. I realized that police officers are true heroes. I used to think football players were heroes. No disrespect to football players, but they ain't got nothing on being a police officer. So I was a police officer. Everybody on the police department were conservative. Most of the people. I ain't know many liberals, except the black people on the police department. But I wasn't into politics that much, so I didn't really know what was what, to be honest. And so most of my friends on the SWAT team and people that I did special assignments with were mostly conservatives, and we used to debate all day long about Barack Obama and the Democrats versus the Republicans. And I used to stand up for Barack Obama like nobody's business. Y'all know how I could talk. Y'all know how I could talk. I was doing this talking for Barack Obama because I was convinced and ignorant. So we go on down the pathway, right? Obama started trashing police officers. I mean, trashing them. Saying that police officers acted stupidly, taking their side, and even when he was wrong, he would never correct it. And I for the life of me, I could not support him anymore. I used to see people come at us more often after Obama made those national statements. People used to just be out to get us, especially black people. I remember I pulled a black guy over. He told me, well, you pulled me over because I'm black. And it got worse and worse and worse. We were getting targeted. People were questioning our work, all of the above, ladies and gentlemen. And I said, I can never support another politician that cannot respect the men and women who wear the uniform. It's over. And it seems like every other Democrat was following suit. So for the first time in my life, in 2015, I said, you know what? And I had already voted for Barack Obama. I said, you know what? I need to look on the other side of the aisle. Like, I've never looked at a Republican, but I'm going to look at them today because these Democrats are out of control. They're completely out of control.
Okay, Chris, what do you think of that?
Well, the first thing I picked up was I really liked how, over time and with debate, he eventually found the truth. And for me, that gives me a lot of hope because, I'm sure all of us watching here, and you and me, Thomas, we've ran into some very hard heads, especially with the media brainwashing that's been going on. And it's like pulling teeth. It's like, all right, I did 0.5% progress, maybe, hopefully. I planted a seed, and hopefully something would happen there. Um, so I like that part, but I also enjoyed how he mentioned, you just don't disrespect the police. All right, he became a cop, and when you're actually in the reality of things, you don't go against basic institutions. Now, reforming them is one thing, but to just completely smear, hundreds of thousands of people that keep us safe is absolutely un-American, and it's just mean-spirited. The ends do not justify the means. Um,
I remember. I
and
remember shortly after the thing happened. Um, Michael Brown.
right,
Shortly after that, there were actually a few police ambushes. There was one right here in San Antonio, right outside the main police station downtown, where some guy just went over and shot a cop. You know,
right,
he would just shot it. He just shot him, and that cop died. And I mean, it's like, so when Brandon is talking about them coming after the cops,
right,
I mean, there's an example, a very horrifying example of that right there.
right. And it's even worse when black cops' lives are lost, and you're like, wait a minute. In fact, even this year, right? You had the police chief. I forget his name, but he was shot because of this whole George Floyd situation. And it's like, wait a minute, is this really about reform? Then, of course, you have the riots, which makes absolutely no sense, and the looting. It shows something much deeper than just, oh, we don't like these overly aggressive and potentially racist cops. I mean, that's certainly not a good way to get your message across. I see some leftists try to say, well, it's the only way they could get the message across. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so, buddy. I think if you actually knew how crowds work and how optics work, doesn't look so good. It looks like they're just aggressive, emotional, chaotic people that are looking for a fight. And Brandon's onto him. Brandon is saying it like it is, and so are many others.
Yeah, Brandon's a straight conservative shooter. Let's bring up a couple of more people that everyone loves.
Supposed to be, but you have these Democrats. See these old heads, they got to go. Listen, I want everyone to wake up. Wake up. When I say the old heads, and I don't mean you literally being old, I'm talking the ones that sit on the system, the ones that's working for their own greed and not the need of people. The one that's sitting up in a $4.6 million mansion on a $174,000 salary and choose to boycott the State of the Union and not be there to represent the people.
That's right.
I'm talking about those people. Vote them out. It's time for us to pay attention, not just stay woke. Pay attention to what's going on. The movers, the players, the shakers, and the fakers. Pay attention to them. We got to get them up out of there.
Diamond and Silk, what did you make of the fact that the President of the United States...
So of course those are a couple of my favorite ladies right there, Diamond and Silk. You,
Mm-hmm.
you know they
Yeah.
have got they have got it down. They blew me away when I saw them at the first one of the first Trump rallies, and they were just coming at it, but they haven't stopped. They have continued to push the conservative message. They've also been embroiled in the censoring issue. You know,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
this has been, they have been doing a wonderful job promoting. They are a big target by the liberals. The
Yes.
liberals really hate these two ladies, so
Right.
they are doing a wonderful and awesome job, Chris.
Yeah, isn't that very racist of Mark Zuckerberg to censor two wonderful black ladies and of course Candace Owens? I thought you guys were the tolerant, unifying people. Of course, when Democrat interests are threatened, suddenly that changes.
They're also the nonviolent ones, Chris.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah,
You know?
nonviolent. The liberals have been pushing nonviolence for God knows, 40 years now. Oh, my
Right.
sound's off again.
Oh,
The liberals have been pushing the nonviolence narrative for 40 years, and I just got through saying to Chris that, it is completely ridiculous that they're promoting violence at an unprecedented level now. These people are
exactly.
hypocrites.
They're hypocrites and they're stupid, and they keep saying this is the only way. Well, guess who was the most effective black speaker in all of human history? Martin Luther King Jr. certainly wasn't violent. Why aren't you? If you guys are really serious about this, why don't you take after Martin Luther King Jr.? It's like you have your work cut out for you. Why why not learn what he did? If you really look at the public opinion on BLM right now, it's not looking too good. They had a good streak. It wasn't as like profound as when the Michael Brown thing happened. They had a good streak for the first 2 weeks, but as the riots progressed, people, they have these sham polls that I really don't put much stock in. But people, when you look at the cities themselves and how people are reacting to the riots, people hate it. And people are really not wanting to have anything to do with these protests. And even people within the protests are complaining, right? Because you have these infiltrators, and they're like, and not just infiltrators, BLM themselves, and they're smearing the whole point, which was to protest this incident. And I just call bull on this whole idea of rioting is the only way. I mean, unless you're an anarcho-communist, I mean, that's kind of their way. But I don't know about trying to win the hearts and minds of America.
Okay, let's hear another Diamond and Silk.
So happy and proud to be in America.
And seeing more Democrats like yourselves, did you used to be Democrats?
We used to be Democrats because we were conditioned to vote that way. We was taught to do that. But this time we looked at everything. We said, wait a minute, we need to vote for somebody that's not a career politician.
Saying?
Oh, everybody is getting happy. Listen, everybody is getting on the Trump train. We have people walking up to us. I don't care what color they are. You tell the president he's doing an amazing job. We love him. Listen, I know what those Democrats want you all to believe, and the little whistle calling that they're doing, and how they try to use trigger words to try to scare black people. But it ain't working no more, baby. We coming off of that Democratic plantation, a lot of them coming off, and they leaving their stuff there. They leaving the crumbs there because they want more.
That's right.
Diamond and Silk, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well said.
One of the consistent things that I have heard from Diamond and Silk is that you have been giving us crumbs. I can't fix the video volume. It's just something that happens on my software. Diamond and Silk talked about just receiving crumbs, and they also said they say it quite often. Get off of the Democratic plantation. Chris, what do you think of those words, Democratic plantation?
Oh, I think a lot about it, because one, I'm glad they zero in on the history of the Democrats. If you look at the actual history of the Democrats, they've been the party of slavery. And, of course, the counterpoint you would think in your head is, well, they're not like that anymore. But if you look at Dinesh D'Souza's last two movies, and I encourage everyone to watch them on your own time, he outlines very well that there was no party switch of Democrats suddenly coming to their senses. He reminds us of the Dixiecrats, and he reminds us of Lyndon B. Johnson. And
Lyndon
what
B.
he
Johnson was a liar to the freaking core.
Exactly.
He was going to give a New Deal, and it's taken me a long time to wrap my head around it. Lyndon Baines Johnson is painted by history as being this person who wanted to save the poor and progressive and this, that, and the other. But the fact of the matter is to me, he was a paper-carrying KKK under the sheets. All the way back to Wilson. I was talking
all the way back to Wilson.
I was talking to Chris about that. Wilson approved of the KKK. What was the name of that movie again, Chris?
Oh, A Nation. hold on. I almost got it. A Nation.
Yeah, that's close.
Birth of a Nation.
The Birth of a Nation was this movie about some black man, I think raping a white woman, and then they lynched him.
Right.
And this was heralded throughout the United States at the time, and Wilson took it up, and he watched it in the White House and said it was a very great movie. And the KKK had a tremendous power in the South. The KKK controlled the politics. Lyndon Baines Johnson was a part of the same machine when he did the little flip-saroo with the Democratic Party and offering crumbs to the black folks. And then what happened is because they were desperate and hurting, they got on the Democratic Party. And and now we see the results of all this racism that has been created because they are destroying these people. They are destroying them.
Yes, it's very sad. And on top of that, you have these people that, and they're waking up. Candace and all these people are waking up to the fact that the simple question needs to be asked is, you have all this carnage happening in these cities with the murders and the crime. You have all of this broken family households. More than one of the most broken families in the world are the black community in the United States. It's terrible. There's probably not much worse, as far as I know. Who's running these areas, right? Wouldn't you want to know who's running these areas and perpetuating this cycle? And
Chris, when I'm looking back at the old footage, the old civil rights footage, them black folks looked a lot healthier to me. Their families were more intact. I think they had more of their own independent businesses. From what I understand, pre-civil rights, they had their own banks, they had their own stores. Now I'm not heralding and saying that segregation was good or anything like that at all. I'm just pointing out the fact that after the Democrats got in control, through welfare, welfare was a terrible thing because what they did is they said no man can be in your house. If you're going to be on welfare, there cannot be a man. Men were completely barred. So what happened is you created the single woman family with black culture. There was no male guidance anymore. There was no male authority. And also it destroyed the masculine power of the black man, who could no longer see himself as a father, as a provider, as a defender, as the head of his house. It was gone for him. And it destroyed the black woman because she didn't have the support she needed to raise her kids.
And I'll add something to that too, Thomas. So you have welfare, which creates dependence and laziness and all kinds of problems. But who are the people that outsource the jobs that give people the opportunities in these cities to China? You'll look, and right?
Absolutely.
That's why they're so pro-Trump. He is not on board with that scheme. And so you got to ask yourself again. Now, if I can make more money, if I have a good boss and a raise, and I can, do more with my savings, and ultimately I do much better than living from welfare check to welfare check, who wants me to do that and who doesn't? And who, in that case, why would they want me not to have that?
That destroys the inner human spirit or drive to live.
Exactly.
We all have dreams, and so we have things that we shoot for in life. Now there isn't much talk about this, but I'm going to talk about the masculine desire. See, men want to get out and fight and make things happen in the world. All right? When you took that away from the black man and the young black men, you killed them. Yep. And then they replaced it with drugs, and they also, brought in abortion. Margaret Sanger wanted to kill off the black race, and I'm going to play you a clip right now. Now, I don't know if y'all be able to hear this, but I'm going to play it anyways.
most notorious eugenicist is one Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood and the mother of the abortion industry. Sanger's view, attributing her efforts to promote birth control to a desire to purify the human race through eugenics, and even to eliminate minority races by placing abortion clinics in minority communities. How many of you know that 80% of all abortion facilities are located in the black or minority community? She said, Negroes are like weeds, we need to get rid of them.
Okay, that was Pastor Broden, and I videotaped him in Waco, and he has been a strong component against abortion in the black community. There are more abortions per capita in the black community than in any other race in the United States.
Wow.
Margaret Sanger's dream of trying to eliminate the black race is being fulfilled somewhat through Planned Parenthood. There is no doubt about it.
And it's like the curse has been successfully placed, and that's something that the black conservatives are running with. They are running with this idea of, you want to talk about racism and black genocide, throw all these big words around. Well, then what's killing us? What's keeping us from our potential? What's keeping us from our families, or from having families? Who is the one keep putting us in prisons and constantly having us dependent on them, just like a plantation or the black codes? Isn't that what the Democrats always have done? It's like the same people. They just do a little sleight of hand. You have the same villains.
Well, that's
it's like the shadow of America.
Johnson did. That's what Lyndon Johnson did.
That's right. That's right.
And but he did it, and he did it sweeping, and then everyone joined the Democratic Party.
Right.
And they've been doing Democrat, but a lot of the people that are coming out right now, a lot of these blacks are talking, walking, and quacking like conservatives, and they don't see any point. And one of the biggest ones that we have is Candace Owens.
There are close to 700,000 slaves, and this is going to shock the heck out of the too woke to see what's in front of them crowd. But they are not being enslaved by white people. They are being enslaved by other Africans. Child soldiers, human trafficking, forced labor all exist within the same sub-Saharan region that the transatlantic slave trade took place. African bodies are being sold today like they were being sold then, and they are not being purchased by any country of predominantly white men. It's a wonder that Colin never mentions that in Ghana today, this beloved country of emotional reprieve.
Okay, so Candace Owens, I don't think y'all could hear Candace Owens very well. She had caught that the Colin Kaepernick had made this big statement that he was leaving during the 4th of July. This was not this 4th of July, but I think the last 4th of July. And that he was going back to Africa. And Candace Owens says, well, did you know that there is slavery in Africa?
Right.
And it's not being done by white men. Candace Owens has become a very powerful sharpshooter, and she doesn't back down. And I hope one day that she makes it into office.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. She'd do great. And I one thing I like about the black conservative style is they understand that, and this is something I think we can all learn, the darkness of leftist ideology and the misery that it leaves behind. It is well worth fighting. It is well worth being strong. It is well worth telling it like it is and being the light that shines. I see Elizabeth saying that in the comment section. You never know who really is hurting and is agreeing with you and was just too scared to say something. And the fact of the matter is that the black community has been brainwashed. They've been brainwashed by just superficial rumors of who the racists are and who they aren't. They've been gone through an absolutely garbage public school system that does nothing for them, and the rest of it's just hip hop and the hood culture. And here are the black conservatives saying, what if you could rise above this? We're not just selling hate. That's another thing we can learn. The left has only been selling hate. And yeah, hate can be a good, it's like when you're having a campfire and you have the leaves you throw on. It can burn pretty quickly, but it doesn't have any staying power. The right, the black conservatives are the only people offering solutions and actually talking about what everyone's hurting from.
Yeah, Chris. In the 2016 election, I was very, very surprised. There was already blacks that were kind of coming off of the Democratic plantation in 2016. It's much bigger now, but in 2016, there was a young man, C.J. Pearson, 14 years old, who caught the eye of the nation. Check this guy out.
Candidate speaking so honestly about the issues like this. It was something that we were not aware of. And so when things are new to us, we assign labels to them. And a label that was assigned to them at that time were things like racist or bigoted. I even believe those things for a bit. But I got to be honest with you. Getting to know Mr. Trump, getting to know what he's saying, getting to know where he really believes, I know that this man is not a racist. I know that this man is not a bigot. But he is so honest and so frank about the issues that are surrounding our nation's future that sometimes people assign those labels, but they shouldn't assign those labels because they are simply untrue.
So yeah, have you?
So this little kid blew me away. This little kid blew me away last year. I mean, not last year, but in 2016. And he for a kid, he is incredibly politically savvy. I'm not as politically savvy as this kid is. He clearly is very, very gifted. He has continued to be a voice for Trump. He continues to support Trump, even though he can't even vote for him. I wonder if this young man is going to end up in the Senate one day, or maybe even be the next black president. I don't know. Very, very gifted young man.
Yes, and he's, I haven't seen much of his stuff. I've seen what you sent me, Thomas, and I think what I've been seeing is that how these black conservatives carry themselves is very important. To me, I really was a little bit off-put. I was like, well, aren't you afraid that you're going to be called an Uncle Tom or whatever they would say? They say these words to these black conservatives, basically calling them traitors, But it's a lot smarter than I realized, because much of the leftism in the black community is based off of this envious assumption that we're put down here, they corralled us here, they want us to stay poor, and they get to have the nice mansions, the nice things, and we just get to sit here and suffer, right? And that's what usually fuels it. And they just throw a label like C.J. Pearson's. They just throw a big fat generalization onto what's going on. But when the black conservatives come out, they have, they try to look presentable, they try to look educated. Well, that deflates this idea that blacks are completely blocked in America from being successful. And you'd be surprised, those that are listening, how little blacks in these communities hear about the success stories. There's no news like bad news, as they say. Bad news pays well. It's the case for everything. You never hear any good news anyway. Especially if you're a black American. It's all negative.
Well, they have been put in a really, really frightening and bad position, and a lot of them are very, very unaware of it. They're very, very unaware that they're being exploited in so many ways. Some of them became aware, I think, in 2016, when they began to think, you know what? You guys just come around for our vote, but you don't do anything for us in the meantime. I was appalled. You know, I was not very in tune with what Obama was doing. I was just kind of out of it at the time. But one of the things that appalled me about Obama when he was in is he didn't do anything for the black community. You
No.
know, I remember
No.
I remember when the Michael Brown thing came out, and Obama did nothing. He
That's
absolutely
right.
did nothing.
That's right.
He did not did
Nothing.
not bring a commission together to investigate it. He didn't do a single thing. You know, Trump comes in, even though he's not on board with BLM, but Trump comes in and he starts making changes right away. You know,
Yes.
and Trump actually, said, "Let's talk." They don't want to talk to Trump.
No.
This is not about, black lives or whatever. This is only about socialism and communism and the destruction of the American way of life. And I feel very good about what happened to the whole statue attacking thing during the 4th of July. You know?
Yes.
Which was, Americans came out, they celebrated the 4th of July. They said, we have a history, we have a culture, we are patriots, and forget you nutcases. And
Yes.
I was
Amen.
very, very pleased about that.
It was great. It was great. And, if just to prove how orchestrated and phony this conservatives and Trump is a racist agenda is, it's nothing but a phony plot and propaganda machine by the Democrats to keep their votes. They are so stupid that they attacked a man who, before he became a president, was well known for being a very open to other races boss and New Yorker. He was a celebrity. There's even pictures of Trump with Reverend Jesse Jackson. He would I'm serious, you can look it up, right? And you can look at all these people who come to Trump parties, and all these people that came to his parties and ate his lobster and his hors d'oeuvres are going to pretend that he was some KKK member the whole time. There's absolutely no evidence. There's less evidence of Trump being a racist than any other smear that they have. It's like the worst smear they have. Stupid idea, guys. Stupid idea, because you went against the worst. I mean, maybe any other Republican, sure, but not Trump. Then the man funds black colleges and universities, and then he starts talking to Kanye and other black, and he's always reaching out to the black community, and he's working on prison reform, something no Democrat, if anything, cough, cough, Bill Clinton, the Democrats have been pushing for more black people to be imprisoned and pushing for this whole hell on earth nightmarescape ghetto thing to be constantly pushed. Wake up and smell the coffee. Look at the facts. If you're really concerned about who's keeping us down and keeping us from living like everyone else, well, you better get specific. Don't you want to know where your target is?
Okay, now I have another example. This woman has been impressively coming out in different places, and her name is Professor Carolyn Swain.
And a similar argument's taking place at Vanderbilt.
A group of students feel school leaders should suspend a professor because of her beliefs. News Channel 5's Chris Cannon talks with the professor who got emotional about the controversy, all new at 6:30.
Well, my views are traditional Judeo-Christian views.
A college campus is a place for students to express their views and to listen to the beliefs of others.
If we're going to educate them to be leaders, then we have to allow them to hear and respect more than one side of an issue.
Vanderbilt University professor Carol Swain pushes for frank discussions.
On the first day of class, I pretty much tell students that they have entered a political correctness-free zone.
Swain doesn't shy away from her ultra-conservative beliefs.
In January, when I published the controversial opinion piece in the Tennessean about Islam, I received a barrage of criticism.
Controversy has followed the tenured professor in 2015, even though she's been on sabbatical. This week, several students started an online petition asking school leaders to suspend Swain, claiming she has become synonymous with bigotry, intolerance, and unprofessionalism. She disagrees.
I mean, I know that I've never had a student in my class complain that I've discriminated against them.
Chancellor Nicholas Zepos released a statement saying, quote, Professor Swain's opinions are her own. They do not reflect the opinions of the university in any way. The chancellor went on to say Vanderbilt welcomes free speech but won't tolerate hate.
I don't feel safe on campus, nor do I feel supported by the university.
But the professor says as overwhelmed as she is, she will not back down.
And so I feel, in many ways emotionally drained, but I have a lot of support across the country, and so it's sort of mixed.
At this
Okay, so that's Professor Carolyn Swain, a very educated woman. She tenured, I think, at Princeton, I believe, and she has taught at other universities as well. I don't think she currently has a job. I think that her conservative viewpoints finally cost her her job. She is now a conservative spokeswoman, and of course she's very educated in history and the law is what my understanding is, and she is something else. So we have a variety of people. We have young black people, we have rappers, we have professors, we have college football players and police officers. That's Officer Tatum. Of course, we have the very, very talented Diamond and Silk. We have a doctor. What is his current position in Trump's cabinet?
Ben Carson?
Yeah, Ben Carson. What is
I think he's currently on urban planning. Let me check here. That's what the last thing he was doing.
Of course, he has always been a very outspoken conservative.
Yes, housing and urban development. Yep.
And so it's not just one group or the other. There's a waking up. There is a rising black conservative movement. They're beginning to walk away from the Democratic Party. Chris.
Yes, and moves like firing this professor are just showing their true colors. It's showing the phony political machine of the universities, of the elite upper class, often white liberal people. It's just very interesting, I think this is going to bite them even more and more in the behind, because not only are they against the values that every American really wants, whether they realize it or not, but now they're going to start discriminating against the black people they're supposed to be so cool with, and the poor black people, and then you have this whole hit list of black people that can't speak. So this is just looking more and more phony every waking day. And at a certain point, we have to ask ourselves, what is their agenda? Whenever you say something, it seems, that involves not just defending, they make it sound like this is defending Republicans. No. American values, Western civilization, having families, being your own businessman, being your own boss, practicing the gospel. What is that? Does that really have to do with race? Or does that have to do with trying to destroy American sovereignty and our right to liberty, life, and pursuit of happiness? That's what it really seems.
And they are just using race as an excuse to try to divide people, to cause people to fight. George Soros loves disruption to occur, whether it's economic disruption or social disruption or whatever. That's how he makes his money. There's actually a technique of disrupting economics that people can actually profit from. And so he has gone into he's actually barred from some countries because of his predatory actions in their economies. where he would do things like dump stocks or different things like that and actually bankrupt countries, and then he would clean up off of the bottom from it. And he has been doing these things. That's how he made his fortune, and he continues to fund these kinds of things throughout the world. And he, of course, is funding Black Lives Matter big time.
Yes, yes. His fingerprints are all over these orchestrated, paid-off organizations. They themselves are money makers. They get tons of donations, then they funnel it through this program called Share Blue to the Democrat Party. It just seems like everything seems to point towards the Democrat Party. It's like, if this was actually a grassroots movement, one, there would be a lot more peaceful protesting. There would be a lot more on-the-ground evidence. The media, would probably, they would take it seriously, but they wouldn't be like pushing it and blocking and censoring other views. They would be reaching out to the president. They would be reaching out to senators, just like MLK Jr. did. Martin Luther King Jr. wanted to be as transparent as possible. He wanted to seem as authentic and heartfelt as possible and nonviolent as possible. Why is there this, short-breathed, kind of like quick-paced hate push on an election year, of course, and where were these people helping the black community if they cared so much? I don't see them out there trying to help, crackheads and criminals get, ex-convicts get on their feet. Where are they? Where are these people? They only seem to show up like gremlins. They just come out of the woodwork every election time. You're like, where are they? I don't know where these people are coming from. Who are you guys? And that's what's happening now, Thomas. BLM leaders are leaving this protest movement because Antifa has been pushing their agenda down everyone's throat over there.
Well, black conservatives are becoming aware that all these people are doing, Jesse Jackson, it's a real shame. Jesse Jackson was a part of Martin Luther King's entourage at one time, but a lot of black conservatives are becoming aware that what these people are doing is they're getting their wealth by exploiting the problems of black folks.
Just as Democrats usually do. That's what they do best.
Well, they're very, very good at that. I think someone asked a question earlier. Rome found out that it could keep the people, the poor Roman citizens in check if every now and then, they gave them some food and then held some games in the arena.
That's right. That's right.
Executed some Christians in the arena, and then the people would be happy for a little while longer, and then they would do it again. And so there's a thing about, offering welfare to people or programs or things like that. And then people begin to say like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to take that. At least I'm getting something. What Diamond and Silk call crumbs.
One more dimension of this, Thomas, as we close. There is a Christian dimension I see in this black conservative movement. And Brandon's very open about his Christianity, and so are a few others. And I think there's some very good points on the moral and spiritual level as well. It's like, wait a minute. Now there are different pastors in the black community. Some are conservative, some are liberal. But the crux of the matter is, are we living out the gospel? If we're, the black community, as far as I know, I don't know about the youth, but as far as I know, they're pretty open about being Christian, usually Baptist or some denomination, or they're evangelical. And it's like, okay, so putting aside all the politics, against families, pro-abortion, pro-LGBT, which is now being pushed, being envious of your neighbor's goods, being murderous, drugs, sex. How do we get off promoting this and then not having a problem with it if you go to church on Sunday and you supposedly listen to the good word? That's a very strong but common sense, and no one says it because they're so brainwashed. I think they have their own. Many of them have their own skewed version of the Christianity, just like we have in the Anglo communities and the Hispanic communities. There's this skewed, liberalized Christianity that no one ever questions, but the black conservatives are. Another thing I really admire about them and that we should imitate.
Yeah, Chris. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play one more clip. I had one more guy on, and this is Anthony Brian Logan, and he is a great black commentator on politics. And this will be my last clip, and let me run that one.
It got to the point where I kept going back to some of the same types of information, which was that the Democratic Party were the ones who were my enemy. They were the ones who kept having these high taxes I kept hearing about from black business owners, saying how much it was oppressing them. I kept hearing about things like abortion, 20 million black babies since 1973 Roe v. Wade. I never hear anybody on the left, any Democrat, talking about how bad that is. Matter of fact, talk about how good it is. So I'm like, wait a minute. On the right, they are against high taxes. On the right, they are against abortion. On the right, they are against not allowing people to arm themselves, because I know how dangerous it is in the black community. You got to have some kind of arms to protect yourself. I know my father, my grandfather, uncles, everybody, they've had guns or they own guns currently to protect themselves. So I'm like, okay, everything that black people need to go forward, the party we vote for seems to be against.
Very succinct. Very good points.
That's Anthony Brian Logan, and he is also a great YouTuber, and he shares he very excellent, very excellent. He's a very excellent speaker, and he's also something that me and Chris also watch. Anything else, Chris? Because I think we're about out of time.
No, but this is a very hopeful broadcast just talking about it, Thomas, and it proves the power of truth. It proves the power of courage and standing up for what's right. And there is a light to be shined that needs to be shined all the more. I think Donald Trump's speeches over the weekend at Rushmore and at the flyover, what was it? I don't know the exact name of the event, but I saw it. I could tell that there is no arguing with this man anymore. Are you for life and liberty and for loving your neighbor and trying to come to a peaceful union or not? All right? And Donald Trump and the black conservatives, of course, they're not against the corruption that is found. There are corrupt cops. There are, I'm sure, cops that are way too rough on people. I know some here, but they're also for truth, and they're also for trying to aim for peace and trying to actually do something mature and constructive and good. And the BLM clowns are like, they're not even remotely on the plane of reality. It's like these people are nuts. They have no consideration for how their beliefs are going to affect things. Only the conservatives take the time to think, okay, well, let's check ourselves. Let's have some humility and make sure we sound right and we will build up people around us. So it's all coming to a head, Thomas. Sanity or not? That's the question.
Okay, so I'm Thomas the Hermit.
And I'm Chris Poulos.
And everyone have a very blessed time.
We've been wandering in the desert 40 years has been a long time, and now we are ready to listen to follow God's voice. We've heard about the giants and Jericho's walls, thick and tall. God told us to march around the city, praising God and singing songs. Speak against the wall till our voices become a shout. Tell the priest to blow the trumpet, and the walls shall come tumbling